Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Top 10 edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and our co-sponsor, Mana Traders, the best tool to enhance your Magic Online experience. Use the code MagicMics_08V, that's 08 Victor, for 10% off your next subscription with Mana Traders. My name is Evan Irwin. We get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Power Dragon.
What's up, everybody? And this dragon is almost dragoned out, and we're just getting started.
So many dragons. Ruben Bressler.
How's it going? I mean, I'm never going to be dragged out. I loved drag on.
Dragging on. That's right. We're doing our thing. We're making it happen. It's great. All right. So that said, we begin with our top choice of the comment from our last top 10 for Aether Drift in a segment we call Honorable Mention, where Ruben will tell us who is the most eloquent, letting us know what card we did not choose as one of our top 10 Aether Drift cards. Ruben?
Well, we had a little bit of a Mandela effect here, where we were like, "How is this card not on one of our lists?" But it wasn't, and Deathkeeper 43 made sure to let us know about it. I am surprised to hear nothing about Monument of Endurance. Self-discard is becoming so popular, and this little trinket can trigger 3 times a turn. 3 times! The value is immense if you can cycle cards every turn. And I am a huge fan of this card. I play it in Brawl a lot. I've seen a lot of cool standard decks with it. Definitely a very cool card.
Yeah.
To be fair, I just wanted other things to talk about, and I assumed it was going to be on one of y'all's lists anyway.
We've done that from time to time where we're like, there's no way that, Ruben or I or whatever are going to leave off so-and-so. And sometimes we do. For those who don't know what it does, Monument to Endurance is a 3 generic mana rare artifact. This is whenever you discard a card, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn, draw a card, or create a treasure token, or each opponent loses 3 life. And it has been a very potent, very scary card for a minute now, and I think it's just getting more tools to be so. And honestly, I was kind of expecting it to be more scary than it kind of ended up being, but sure. I'll be okay with that.
I mean, there's a couple of Monument of Endurance decks still floating around in Standard. It's the kind of card that you build around and, only needs a critical mass, every once in a while in order to be scary. So it's also the kind of card I like being good.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's its own sort of beast, as it were. Ruben, you'll want to scooch to your right just a little hair there. Just to get yourself free frame. There you go. Much, much better. All right. That said, let's go ahead and move on here to our top 10 cards. Thank you so much to, I'm sorry, what was that person's name who had contributed?
Bloomkeeper, I think, or Deathkeeper.
Deathkeeper. We really appreciate being a part of the show. Stay tuned for our top 10 list and let us know what your choice of an honorable mention for Tarkir Dragonstorm may be for this week. This has been again, we were talking about it just in Discord, a little bit of an odd set,
I like it.
It's neat. It's different. I don't know. It's strange. I'm not exactly how to put my finger on it.
I like having a lot of cards that do things that we haven't done before, or at least doing them in ways that are different. Because I think it, one, makes it hard to evaluate cards, so there's like a whole lot of fun speculation in the beginning. But also it means deck building is going to be pretty sweet for the first couple weeks.
Yeah. I personally really appreciate how this is a return to form. This is a really good introductory set for a new Magic player, because all of the abilities are inherent to the language of Magic. There's no difficult to understand or difficult to parse abilities or language here. All of the keywords make sense. All of the ability words make sense. They do what you want. You're not trying to stack the lore of Final Fantasy or the lore of a noir mystery or a horror set. As much as we love those other types of experiences, this is dead center what Magic does, and I live for that kind of set.
Yeah,
Can I start with an actual honorable mention, since I goofed up and left a card off my list that I really wanted to put on my list?
Sure.
And it turns out it's not on y'all's list at all, which is great.
Sure.
So it's like a true honorable mention for the top 10, which is great. But man, Temur Battlecry. This is one I've been goofing around with deck lists, and I love this card. It's a 3 mana, so Temur colors, 1 of each, for a 4/3, but it makes every spell you play cost 1 less for each creature you have that's power of 4 or greater. There are so many silly, aggressive things you can do with this. It's like a secret ramp card for dragons that people have kind of overlooked, which is really cool. Like just so many fun little things you can do with this. And the cool part is it says any spell. It doesn't even care. I thought at first like, oh, is it creature spells? Is it not
Right.
creature? Nope. It's just whatever spell. So no matter what, on a minimum, it makes everything else cost one less by itself. Like just a cool card that hadn't seen a lot of hype on. But yeah, I scooped a few of these that I saw on a website for $2. So I figured that was safe. I wanted a play set or two.
I mean, we can see right here it's already pre-ordered in TCG Player and whatnot for 380 plus. So,
Yeah, there you go.
sure. I mean, this is the
Yeah.
type of card that is scary. This is there's
Yeah.
no restrictions here. There's no maxes or at least one mana or whatever. Like it can go to 0 if you have enough power of 4 creatures to get you there.
Speaking of, you want to know something fun? You can easily play it in mono green in Pioneer with all the crazy ramp things you're doing because it's easy to just play this different color lands that still make green. And then this just
Sure.
ramps up to where everything costs basically just green mana.
Nice.
Like it's awesome. You can have stupid turns with this
Pretty
card.
great.
I mean, yeah, this is a card with possibilities, and I like it as an honorable mention, and appreciate you bringing it up. All right, let's go ahead and get started here with our number 10. Now, I know there are so many hires on Ruben's list, so we'll let him kick it off here with his number 10. What you got?
Yeah, I do have a number 10. And my number 10 is, I think that we are, not to lead off with something that is going to be a bit of a downer, but I don't foresee 1-drop red creatures getting a lot of time in the sun until the mouse goes away. But the red creatures that are going to get time in the sun are going to do something that doesn't just say go in the best deck. What the red creatures you want, or any of the creatures you want that are 1-drops, are going to be multiple permanents attached to one body for an aristocrat style strategy. And that's why my number 10 is Stadium Headliner. Stadium Headliner is a 1 red mana 1/1 Goblin Warrior with Mobilize 1, which is the Abzan ability. Whenever this creature attacks, create a tapped and attacking 1/1 red warrior creature token, sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. It also has an activated ability. Pay a generic in a red and sacrifice it. It deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target creature. So, this is very similar in my mind to a Mogg War Marshal, or maybe even a Doomed Traveler, where you're getting multiple bodies attached to one body for 1 cost. If your opponent is leading off with a tapped land and you're able to get multiple attacks out of this, you're also just getting a little bit of extra damage, some chip damage in there. For the low cost of 1 mana with 2 very relevant creature types and the ability to maybe pick off a big creature later in the game, maybe you top deck this on turn 6 or whatever, and you're already attacking with 5 creatures and you can kill their 5/5. I think that that's also well worth a slot.
Yeah, I like this card a lot. I think it also fits in various like token strategies where you have any of the ETB stuff, is a big deal because you're still playing like War Leader's Call, whatever the 2 mana red one is that, creature enters, deal damage. Like it fit in those things. It's obviously going to be a great card for just goblins, giving you another body you get to attack with, which is pretty cool. And it's sometimes a removal spell, right? Like it's rarely going to be just a bad card even later in the game, which is nice because you don't always get that on your 1-drop creatures.
Yeah.
And this has a lot of like the right sort of words on it. Like it's got as low as cost as it can be. It's a goblin. It's got a cool ability. Now I'm not, it's been a minute since I've been a judge. I would love to know just the way it's worded. If Stadium Headliner dies before the beginning of the end step, does that token also still have to be sacrificed?
Yes.
Yes.
That ability is attached to the token, not to the creature.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. But yeah, I think Mobilize is a really powerful, interesting ability. I think they've really pushed when, other creatures enter the battlefield or whatever, or enters. And, putting that on a 1-drop, that's going to make you another creature immediately to do something with, the sacrifice with. There's an additional cost. Like it's right there ready to go on turn 2. And there's plenty of stuff, Deadly Disputes and whatnot, will allow you to sacrifice that token for value. So that looks great. All right, let's move on here to Power Dragons number 10. What you got?
My number 10, we're going to have some dragons on my list or things related to dragons because I have to be on brand and it'd be weird if I didn't. But Ureni, the Song Unending. This is one of the bigger dragons in the set. It's 5 green, blue, red, so 8 mana for a 10/10 spirit dragon. It is a legend, but it has flying and protection from white and black. And then when it enters, it deals X damage divided however you choose among any number of target creatures and planeswalkers equal to the number of lands you control. There's a lot going on, but it has to. You're paying 8 mana, so you got to get your money's worth. The biggest thing here is that it does have protection from white and black, or which are the two biggest spot removal things that are going to be able to deal with it.
Right.
But also just entering the battlefield, and often, even if you just reanimate it or whatever, being able to just deal probably 4 to 6 mana is almost like a small board wipe in a lot of cases. And then 10/10 is just 2 attack steps to end the game if you've done nothing else. So yeah, just a really big, scary card to deal with. And it's actually not unreal to see this just show up in different Sultai ramp decks or even dragon-based decks, because there's so many ways to reduce the cost in this set. So this could actually be a real card, and I'm gonna hate seeing it across the table from me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see you paying retail. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Oh, you're never gonna pay 8, but you might pay 5 or 6.
You might pay 5 or
Right.
6. You'll figure out a way to get it in there. And Pro White and Black is just absolutely monstrous. Like,
Sure.
you know, it's funny to me because we're starting to get to this point where there's so many awesome fatties. There's Craterhoof, there's Atraxa. Like, you can really just pinpoint what it is you want your fatty to do and how you want it to, you know, move your board ahead or whatever, because they do so many different and unique things. And this one is very unique in that it's probably going to wipe their board. You're going to have a monster that have a really hard time to get rid of. You better have a sweeper, or it might just be GG. Like, it's 2-turn clock right here.
Yeah. The ability to, well, first of all, pro white, pro black means that your targeted removal, the red is damage based often, the green is fight based often, and the blue is bounce based often, and none of that is great against this creature. It's a 10/10, so it's just absolutely massive. Dragon Lord Atarka was a 7-drop 8/8 without any protection that dealt, I think, 5 damage divided as you choose.
Yeah.
This is probably going to deal 8 damage divided as you choose, is bigger, and has 2 protections. So I think that this is 100% something you want to play at the top end of your mid-range Dragons deck.
Yeah, this is a good reason to basically make sure that Shoulder's Edicts are still in your binders and still in your sideboards or your main decks, because it's important. All right, so here for my number 10, this is a card that, it's one of those classic, I misread it, and I was like, this card is absolutely ridiculous. And I read it again, I was like, okay, this card is good. This card is very good. I like it. I like it a lot. It's not, it would be in my like top 3, I think, if it did what I thought it did, and we'll get to that. But this card is still sweet, and this card is Mardu Siegebreaker. Mardu Siegebreaker is a black, white, red, and a generic mana for a 4/4 Death Touch Haste. We're already priced to move, literally.
Right.
When this creature enters, exile up to 1 other target creature you control until this creature leaves the battlefield. When this creature attacks, for each opponent, create a tap token that's a copy of the exiled card attacking that opponent. At the beginning of your end step, sacrifice those tokens. So it's going to scale great in multiplayer. So if you like multiplayer, you're already scaling up the right way, which is awesome. I had misread it and thought that this could exile anything, like, you know, an opponent's creature, and I'd be like, that would be absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, that would be ludicrous.
That would be ridiculous. So that's not happening. But what I do like about it is you still basically get to keep your creature. You get to save your creature. If they have that sweeper, you're getting it back. If they have that, you know, they have a Doomblade, you're getting it back. Like, whatever you're going to get that back, and you're going to enters the battlefield trigger if it has one. So you kind of just get to sort of double dip on your awesome creatures while also protecting them at the same time.
Yeah. I love the Battle Chicken. Look at him. Look at his Battle Chicken. Also on the clan art in particular, you get a nice big close up of the Battle Chicken in the front.
Let's go.
But yeah, 4/4 Death Touch Haste is already kind of good enough in you know, that's bigger than a lot of what we're doing. And the fact that you get to rebuy enters the battlefield effects, you get to rebuy maybe some card draw or some looting or some life gain or some whatever it is super good.
Yeah, what I like about this is I read it multiple times and I thought, what am I doing with this? And I'm like, you know, I don't even care. I'm doing something. Like, it's going in the list because I mean, it's a hasty flyer, and if I get an extra creature that's attacking every turn, like,
well, not a flyer. The Battle Chicken doesn't fly.
Oh, that's true.
But it is a hasty death toucher.
It is a hasty death toucher, which does matter.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things with ETB triggers now that either search land, deal damage, whatever. And there's a few in this set as well. So there's quite a few things you could do with this. I mean, you could even be annoying with just the what is the guy, the Viashino, whatever, that just comes in and deals 2.
Sure.
Yeah,
why not?
Attack, deal 2 with every attack step, right?
Yeah.
Something real basic. So there's a lot of silly
like
things.
Like a Thraben inspector. Like, I don't need much.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not asking for the moon.
No, I mean, and there's that little cat that draws cards. There's the angel that draws cards.
Sure.
And you're getting it immediately. You're X on it, you're attacking, and you're getting that token, enter the battlefield, you get that trigger happening right after. Like, the value is up front, and that's what I find very exciting about this card.
And not to be undermined, like, the actual haste is a big deal right now with the number of sweepers we see being played or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
Having something that can just immediately keep your attack steps rolling after a sweeper is big.
Yeah.
Right. So it keeps your attack steps rolling. It protects that creature from those sweepers while also getting additional copies of that creature every single turn and getting those abilities triggering all the time. So like your opponent has to do something. You can't just sit around and let Siegebreaker go stupid. Like, all right, I gotta kill it, and then after I killed it, okay, now I gotta kill the thing that it saved. Now I gotta kill that too. Card is sweet. All right, let's move on here to number 9. It is Ruben's turn. What you got, buddy?
Well, you say it's Ruben's turn, but so here's what's happening. I'm gonna hit the mute button for about 45 minutes because my number 9, my number 9, my number 8, my number 7, and my number 6 are all higher. I think that's the longest run I've ever had in a top 10. I have 4 straight hires. Those are the only hires. Those are the only hires on my list, but I got 4 hires.
Well, you get them out of the way early, so that means
That's
your
right.
top are all clear. Good to go there.
Yeah.
Power Dragon. What's number 9?
I'm disappointing. Like I sold out on this one. I'm just gonna admit, like I put Craterhoof as my number 9.
Oh wow!
Because like the card's still just good. I mean, I wanted to not have it on the list, but I kept looking at all the cards, and I was just like, somebody's gonna say something if we don't even mention Craterhoof. Like we already are playing other cards in the different Selesnya decks with the Collector's Cage.
Yeah.
So like, why not just play a Craterhoof in there? Make 3-4 tokens over the first 4 turns, play Craterhoof and win, right? Like, you don't have to try real hard. Like, Elves want this card. Elves already play it in other formats and in casual commander stuff. So, like, obviously you can do it in standard now. Like, there's just a lot of places this card could show up. Even now with all the cost reduction things we might have and the more ramp stuff that's in the set. Like, yeah, I mean, didn't want to do it, but hey, he got reprinted. It's probably still not going to drop below $20 because it's Craterhoof Behemoth. It's just going to be one of those cards.
Yeah, everyone, all the casuals need a copy, and the competitive people need to make sure they have copies nearby, even if it's been in print for as long as it has. I mean, even that secret lair drop version is $30 or whatever. Like, this is ultimately sort of like it's just a classic. At this point, this is a classic Magic card. This is what 8 mana in green can do for you. It's big, it's dumb, it ends the game. It's greater.
I mean, there's not much more to be said. If this resolves and you have 2 other creatures in play, the game is
sometimes
that's all it takes.
Yeah. That is definitely sometimes all it takes. Now, I was reading through because again, this set to me, it came out sort of, I don't know, in such sort of a weird starts and stops. I felt like they kind of like dumped a ton of stuff at the very, very beginning, and it was sort of almost overwhelming. And then the rest of the stuff kind of got peppered throughout while I was still just sort of trying to catch up. So I was reading through all the cards again, looking at them and stuff, and I was like, well, okay, this is cool. And I got to the sieges, and I was like, I think the sieges are cool. I like the sieges, and I thought that one of the sieges was going to be my favorite, and I was going to put it on my top 10 list, and yada, yada, yada. And then I read this other siege, and I was like, oh, snap. I'm like, this card is scary. And I like the scary. I like the fun. I like the scary. And this card read a little scary to me. And that card is Baron Step Siege.
Sure.
This is the black-white 2 generic mana, 4 mana for a rare enchantment. You choose Obzon or Mardu. Obzon says, at the beginning of your end step, that means you get an instant value from this. At the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. That's 4 mana. Or Mardu. At the beginning of your end step, if a creature died under your control this turn, each opponent sacrifices a creature of their choice. That is such an incredible possibility of abilities. One is going to be unreal against control opponents. Like, it's going to put all the pressure. You don't have to keep playing creatures if they just keep getting bigger forever and ever. Or on the other side, it's an incredible tool against aggro decks because you're going to win that war of attrition because that second ability is going to screw them up all the time. Like, how do you get around that second ability if you're in a creature war? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I love the first and both and the other half of this more than the others, and I like the fact that, yes, multiples are great and yada yada, but 4 mana immediately affects the board. There's really interesting things on both sides of the options, and I think this card is sweet.
Yeah.
What I like about these sieges is they've actually telegraphed them a lot better than the old ones, right?
Mhm.
Because it was kind of like you sort of had to guess how to use them, and this one's saying like, no, if you're playing the deck built-in Mardu strategy, you're going to have tokens that are dying at the end of turn. So
Right.
why don't you choose this one? Right? If you're doing the Abzan thing and you want the counters, well, why don't you choose this one?
Yeah.
So like I kind of like that part of it. But
Yeah.
yeah, these cards can go into a lot of different decks, and this is definitely one of the good ones where, just like you're saying, like if nothing else is going, you're like, great, I'm just going to send this 1/1 in every turn that I'm making. Kill it or don't, right? Like it's up to you. You're gonna lose another body. Like
Right.
there's some crazy stuff you can do with this. But man, even just aggro decks making just a bunch of tokens, just putting a +1 on everything every turn, like that's gonna get annoying really quickly.
Kind of great to be able to play this on turn 4 after you're playing against a mid-range deck, let's say, and you're an aggro deck, or you're a mid-range deck and they're another mid-range deck, and you're doing some early trading, you're doing some early 1-for-1s, your 2-drop attacks into their 2-drop, your 3-drop attacks into their 3-drop. Now your 1-drop attacks into their 4-drop, and they go, why did that happen? And then you drop a Baron Step Siege and they sacrifice their giant creature, and you are left with a value engine for the rest of the game. Much less if you go 2-drop, 3-drop, and they don't kill them, and now we don't need to commit to the board anymore. We just Baron Step Siege and grow our team. So we've got, and then, Virtue, the White Virtue, I forget which one it is already a very powerful card, very, very powerful effect, if you're able to drop it for its 5 mana cost. This is a bit of a discount on that front. And you have the other option of it being a much more controlling element, bit of a mid-range Grave Pact kind of scenario. So I really like this siege quite a bit. It isn't going to be the lead singer. It probably isn't going to be your MVP in any game or in any deck that you're playing, but it's a very good second fiddle in every single game that you're playing.
It's one of those cards that, like, it's going to be a great 2 of in your constructed deck. You're not going to play a whole boat of these things, but it's going to be great when it's great. All right, let's move on here to number 8. My number 8 is higher on somebody else's list, and that's cool because it's awesome. So me and Ruben, we're in the higher gang. Power Dragon, what's number 8?
I also found a siege that I wanted to talk about.
Ooh.
Not a surprise because they're all pretty damn good.
Yeah.
But I'm going with Windcrag Siege. This is
second pick. Nice.
Yeah, this is one red.
Of the ones I'm going to choose.
Exactly. It's 1 red and a white, obviously an enchantment, and you choose Mardu or Jeskai when it enters. Mardu is if a creature attacking causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. If you choose Jeskai, then at the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 red goblin creature token with lifelink and haste until end of turn. So I was thinking about 2 very different things to do with this. Like if you're doing, say, like the Boros tokens deck with Arabella, Adam Pakal, Dollmaker Shop, like this is silly. Like you're talking about making all types of damage and extra tokens like every swing that's just almost unbeatable, in a weird way. Like, or going the other way and building a tokens deck that actually blanks all your opponent's removal for the most part because you're not going to have any hard creatures. There's enough things in this set and things like Urbrass Forge, the instant spells that make 1/1 goblins, whatever, that you don't actually have to play a hard creature and can play a really effective token deck with this because you're always going to have something to attack with because it's just making you an extra token every turn. So I'm sure there's way more to do with this. That was just like top line thoughts. But yeah, if those are my thoughts just looking at it, I'm sure I'm going to find something much better to do with this.
The first thing I thought of when I saw this card was Winota in CEDH.
That's pretty sick.
Was like both of these abilities are insane with Winota. Either we're triggering Winota again per attack, or we're getting a guy every turn to trigger. I mean, even without Winota, being able to double up attack triggers, mostly this is for mobilize in this set, but we have lots of ways to take advantage of this. Things like Myriad, for example. And then getting a free lifelink haste value every turn, continue the pressure that doesn't really care if you get wrathed because you're immediately back onto the board. Really excellent value for your 3 mana.
Yeah, this was well, it wasn't like my second pick is like my number 2. It was my second pick of like I was going to choose this one, and then I read Baron Step because I was like, this one is fantastic, and it certainly is. Like it does provide the real pressure on both sides. A, doing really silly stuff depending on the format. B, I appreciate that the Jeskai side doesn't make you attack with those tokens.
Right.
You can just have 1/1 goblins with lifelink hanging out, just ready to chump block forever and ever if you need to, or able to just get past all of their sweepers over and over, because if they're playing a bunch of Sunfalls or whatever, I guess I'll just play more Windcrack Sieges until you die.
Right.
Because that's awesome. I love this card a lot. This card is sweet. All right, let's go ahead and move on here to number 7. Number 7 is fun. This is another card that, like, I was reading it and I was like, I was like, it doesn't really sort of jump out as like this crazy, I don't know, value engine or this card that's going to knock things out of the stratosphere. But I was like, well, the more I think about it, and the fact that I've played a lot of the black, blue, green graveyard centric deck, Insidious Root stuff, not notwithstanding, but like just the like stuff in graveyard and the Children of the Lost or whatever that card is, that type of stuff. And I was like, okay. And I was reading this, okay. On turn 4, I'm pretty sure the sickest thing I can do in that graveyard deck is to play a Laced Prowler. I think that's how you say it.
Sure.
Laced, if you will. Laced is what I'm going to call it. Lasyd. Prowler is 2 green, 2 generic mana for a 5/5. So it's already a 4 mana 5/5. We're already priced to move in that regard. So a 4 mana 5/5, it's a rare Snake Ranger. When the creature enters, you may mill cards equal to the number of lands you control. All I want to do so badly in my life with that mill deck is to mill myself. And this lets me do that equal to any number of lands I have. Awesome. It has a renewability because let's just keep it getting better. For a green and generic mana, you exile it from your graveyard. You put X +1/+1 counters on target creature, where X is the number of land cards in your graveyard. Activate only as a sorcery. So this is kicking butt in the graveyard base decks and the Insidious Roots decks, as you're exiling this from your graveyard to get a sweet bonus, and the Roots is firing off. Like, this card is sick. I was like, this card's amazing.
Yeah. This card's clearly very good. This card goes in so many different commander decks, from the Gitrog monster to any sort of reanimator strategy to any sort of like Muldrotha kind of graveyard matters strategy. Every Mimeoplasm wants this. This is, it's not just a 4 mana 5/5, but that certainly helps. The fact that the comes into play ability fills up your graveyard to be able to feed future abilities, and then when it inevitably does die, it can make something absolutely massive is great.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing about this card is actually its size, because those decks right now, whether you're talking about like Insidious Roots or whatever, all have so many things that can mill you. But part of the problem sometimes comes down to, like, can you even stay alive to get your big like combo point or do the big thing, right? Or you do something like Achik or whatever, and it's like, oh, you just got rid of my big creature, and this either gives them something else they have to waste removal on or punch pass or whatever to just buy you a little more time so your payoff sticks, or you get time to get to that point. So I also dig that they put this on a big body instead of making it like a 3 mana 3/4 or something that does something like that. Like, hey, you get a significant body for an affordable cost that is going to be pretty important.
Yeah, I appreciate the chunkiness there, because we've seen some of these types of cards before, and they're just like, they're 1/1s, they're 2/2s, they suck to
or
top
weirdly
deck.
like a 3/2.
You're like, they suck to top deck. It's kind of weird. None of this makes sense. Like, give me something on both halves, and I think both halves of this card are really good.
Right.
All right. Let's move on here to Power Dragons number 7. What you got?
Well, see, that's what's funny. We were all thinking alike. So my number 7 is higher on somebody's list. I bet you it's high enough. It's probably number 2 on one of y'all's lists, if I were guessing.
Okay.
All right. Well, good. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move to number 6 here. Power Dragon, do you have number 6?
I do have a number 6. And guess what? It's another dragon because there's so many of the damn things in the set, which I'm loving. But this time we're going with Nerev, Heart of the Storm. It's a 1 red, white, black, 4/5 flying dragon. And if a creature you control that entered this turn would deal damage, it deals twice that much damage instead. I got to thinking about this card at first, and I was like, well, how am I going to use this? And I was like, well, again, coming back to like the Viashino guide, like, all right, 2 mana gets me 4 damage. Like, that's pretty sweet. I'm like, what other ETB things do I have that deals damage? And then I read it again and went, oh, well, if I just have something with haste, that also entered this turn.
Yep.
And that's going to deal double damage.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, hold on a second. Like, wait, we can do what with this? So, like, then my brain exploded, and I'm like, oh my God, the things I can do with this card. Like, you get tokens entering that do double damage. Like, you have a bunch of stuff. You just red cards that just haste in general. There's underplayed cards like the 4/4 Raptor that tramples and also hits like Planeswalkers, whatever that thing.
Yep.
Like, the hasters with trample are now ridiculous. I'm just like, man, what can we do with this? So, yeah, I have a feeling this is going to be a type of card that it's going to stick for a turn or two, and I'm probably just going to die the next turn. You know what I mean? That's sort of what it feels like. If I don't have an answer to this, I could potentially die to the next 5 or 6 mana they spend the next turn.
Yeah. This card's crazy. Obviously starting out as a 4/5 flying for 4 mana. That 5 toughness is crazy. That's a hilarious number. But you know, like you said, level 0 is mobilize. We're making mobilized tokens. Now they're dealing double damage. Level 1 is haste. Hey man, we got enduring courage. We've got, the new Teamer Siege. We got lots of ways to give things haste and deal double damage. Level 2 in Commander is Myriad.
Yeah.
Which is absurd with this card. You're just making 3 tokens every round, and it's just absurd. But yeah, this is an extremely potent card that could either, if you untap with it, obviously that's very, very good. But even if you just play it when you just have a Goblin Rabble Master in play, or a Windcrag Siege, or some other way that's making tokens, you're already eating pretty good.
Yeah, I think that, one of the ways that Wizards helps differentiate things, over time, certainly on a very long time scale, is, some things are good, some things are better. And when the pendulum swings back around, oftentimes what was good then is not good now. And I think the Jeskai really crushed it back in OG Tarkir. And I think here, Mardu was not very good back then. A lot of Mardu cards were just like womp womp. And like the Butcher card, I remember, was just a big whiff. And nothing was really working that sort of read well. And this, to me, sort of reads well and feels like it will play a lot better because I feel like they've pushed. I mean, 4 mana, 4/5 flyer already. You're well above rate. So, let's see if we can make this actually work. It really works great with the mechanic. And yeah, I got high hopes for this one. Between this and Ureni, I really think they're like, okay, Teamer sucked and Mardu sucked.
Yep.
This time,
oh yeah, both those color groupings get to just feast in this set for sure.
Definitely. So let's move on, y'all, to my number 6. And this is a card that, when I was reading through the stuff and I was looking at it, and I was thinking, as I do with my thoughts and stuff, and I was like, I'm not sure if this is the most annoying Magic card that they might have printed in the last few years. This could be one of the top annoying Magic cards of all time. One of the greatest of all time annoying Magic cards. Its name is Parination. Parination.
Oh, yeah.
Looks like it's going to drive me insane. This is the card I hate the most. This is the ultimate reanimator. Just stick it in and break it off because it's over, y'all. It's a black, green, a white, and 3 generic mana. So you're paying 6 mana for this sorcery. So that's just premium mana values for a mythic sorcery. So here we go. Return target permanent card. That's anything permanent from your graveyard to the battlefield with a hexproof counter and an indestructible counter on it. It will almost never go away. It is really, really difficult to get something with those 2 counters on it. You literally have to the perfect exile effect that does not target. So it has to be a creature, and you got a Sunfall or God bless the Queen. Things never going away. You got maybe a Shoulder's Edict, I hope, because if you can just pad the creature count just a tiny amount. I don't know how you get rid of anything with Parination that brought back. Oh God help us.
Yeah. You know what I hate most about this card? is it actually makes me happy the existence of Nowhere to Run is here.
Sure.
Because like that's like I hate Nowhere to Run, but
Yeah,
because it exists, that's the only
that's
thing that makes this card slightly less scary.
Yep.
Like because it takes away the hexproof. But
uh,
the thing is, I've had some people look at the cost and say, like, oh, well, 6 is a lot and it's 3 colors. Like, I think people forget a lot of the reanimator decks are already playing Rite of the Moth,
yeah.
Yep.
which the flashback side or whatever we call it is actually 6 mana. So
Yeah.
it's not like they can't get there. You know what I mean? Like we've been doing that. So it's not unreal to go, okay, well, what if we splash green and see what else we can do? What other creatures can we get, right? Especially in this set, because the floodgates are open. There's all kinds of things you get access to.
Mhm.
So it's like, yeah, this card, and like you're saying, doesn't even have to be a creature in this case, right? It could just be a permanent. Is there some enchantment you want, right?
Right.
That you get something crazy back. You get a discount on like Portal to Phyrexia if you want it, some kind of silly things that you'll be able to do with this for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's already a deck that's trying to reanimate Omniscience.
Hmm.
This is reanimating it in a significantly different way, obviously. So I don't think that this has a room in the Abuelo's Awakening Omniscience deck. That doesn't sound like the same deck to me. But there is certainly room here to reanimate a 7-drop or an 8-drop, probably a creature, given the indestructible and hexproof. Like if I'm reanimating an Atraxa with this, I'm having a great day. If I'm reanimating, any of my big finisher dragon or any of my I could even reanimate a Craterhoof Behemoth that got discarded or milled earlier.
Oh god, yeah, you could.
I think that there is, this is the upper echelon apex predator of reanimation spells. I want to keep the thing that I reanimated in play. So what is the value play here? Something like, a Valgavoth is another great target for this guy.
Oof. I just that card is hard enough to target as it is. Like if you bring back a planeswalker, is there
Yeah,
even an exile planeswalker that doesn't target? Like
I don't think so.
I don't. And if it's
Oh,
indestructible,
the Farewell in Black exiles planeswalker.
Oh no,
Is
no,
it
there's
Planeswalker?
actually you could actually use Shieldred's Edict.
Oh, it does
Sure,
make a
you could
sack,
also
don't
you
you?
Yeah.
can
Wow,
sack it.
man,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
shoulder
yeah.
is
But
doing some work
you gotta think hard about how to deal with it,
Oh, for
which
sure.
is well worth it.
Yeah, this
For
card
sure.
that was just like mother of God. That's the Apex Predator is the perfect way to describe it. It ain't getting more reanimatory over the top than this. Like,
Yeah.
ugh. All right, let's move on here to number 5. Ruben has re-entered the chat.
That's right. Hello.
What have you got for number 5?
So I've been watching a lot of Play to Win recently, which is the CEDH podcast. Shout out to those guys. I met them in Chicago. And they do reviews of all the cards in the set. And both of the cards they're most excited about are on my list. And the first one is here, and it is Mistrise Village.
Oh yeah.
Mistrized Village is one of the cycle of lands that says that if it enters tapped unless you have one of the other 2 opposing types. So Mistrized Village says this land enters tapped unless you control a mountain or a forest, and it taps for a blue. Then it has the following activated ability. Pay a blue and tap, : the next spell you cast this turn can't be countered. This is a expensive ability, but if you have enough mana, there's a lot of permanents, particularly in competitive EDH, that you really want to land. I think a lot of people are in the market for a 5-mana Rhystic Study, for a 6-mana Smothering Tithe, for a 7-mana Seedborn Muse. I'm willing to pay that extra premium to jam this card through. I think that there's also room for this card in both Vintage and Legacy, probably more in Vintage because you actually have access to more mana faster in Vintage. And so I don't see it being a horrific inclusion in decks where you're like, I really need to jam through, for example, a Paradoxical Outcome or an Ad Nauseum or something like that. So I see a big future for this card, not only in Commander, but also in constructed formats.
I was thinking about it in terms of standard of, if you're doing the ramp thing already for say Sultai Dragons, like that does, or Teamer Dragons, I say, it like does make sense to have something like this. Cause like you're gonna invest all this time and this mana into a card, you want to make sure it resolves, right?
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily want to play like Cavern of Souls necessarily, or not a lot of them, because you need to get all those ramp spells and stuff out early, right? So you don't need those clogging up your mana base. Like this is actually reasonable. And because of the cards we've seen so far in this set, Jeskai control could be a real thing. And if so, they're going to be playing counters. So trying to get around that could be pretty sweet with this card. Honestly, it's a little deceiving because people everything costs two more. But if part of your plan is already have a lot of mana, then you may not even care. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I will. I will take the other side of this. I don't think this card's very good.
Okay.
I think this card might be very very good in commander formats for exactly the reason you said. Like there's like big windmill kaboom and everything goes crazy. I totally understand that. What I mean is I don't think this card is very good in constructed formats like legacy or vintage or standard. I just think it's too slow.
Sure.
It's fine. Maybe it's great. I don't know. Again, I've been wrong as hell. I was wrong on shouldered. Maybe I'm wrong on this one. Clearly, it's pre-ordering like crazy. I was just reading. I'm just like, I just feel like there's so many different ways you can protect your spells or do something interesting with 2 mana instead of putting 2 mana into this and making sure it resolves.
Sure.
So I don't know. We'll see. But I'm on the other side of this one. I don't think it's think it's that great. We'll see. All right, Power Dragon. What's number 5?
Number 5. This is the thing that Dragon decks have wanted, and no, it's not Mox Jasper. Y'all might have that on your list, but I'm talking about Sarkhan Dragon Ascendant.
Ooh.
Yes.
This is 1 in a red for a 2/2. When it enters, you can behold a dragon, which is either choose one you haven't played, which you probably don't yet, and reveal one from your hand. Will let you make a treasure token. And then every time you play a dragon after that, Sarkhan gets a +1/+1 and gains flying till end of turn. And becomes a dragon, which, that's awesome. But yeah, this card is exactly what you've been wanting. A threat that's significant that you don't have to play down to, because you've been having to play like random creature that makes a treasure when it comes into play, or this thing that makes some mana or whatever. And it's just like, that's fine, but what's it really doing for the rest of the deck? This is cool because it's on theme, and even if it dies, giving you that treasure means you will be able to play a 4 mana dragon the next turn, which is super important. So yeah, just this card, great design, exactly what it needs to be for a legendary creature. It looks kind of small and unassuming, but it's generally one of the types of cards that dragons have been wanting.
For sure. I think small and unassuming is fine. We have plenty of big and assuming dragons. We needed some stuff to play on turns 1 and 2, and this is a great inclusion there. It gives you the treasure to be able to ramp up, or to mana fix for that matter, because dragons are in every color, and it is a threat in and of itself. There is also apparently now a turn 4 deal 24 damage combo where you play this on turn 2, you play Sarkhan Soul Flame on turn 3, and then drop a Twin Flame Tyrant on turn 4 and attack for 24.
Yeah, so that's pretty gross too.
Easy peasy. And it uses all of the parts that you need. You need to behold the dragon, you need to get the treasure token, you need to get both Sarkhans in play. And I think that that's very cool.
I just love the behold mechanic. I think it's brilliant. I just love the behold my stuff, check out this thing that's going to make this thing awesome. Officially make it all that is great. I just love that. Whoever's going with that, I think did a really great job at making a mechanic that you can kind of just be proud of what you're playing in a way.
Which is, it's coming.
It's coming. It's coming. The mechanic. Behold is brilliant, and it's a great word for the ability. It makes perfect sense. It's exactly what you want flavorfully and mechanically. I want it to be deciduous. I want to see it more often.
I actually like it from almost like a mind game standpoint of, right? Like I can show you, okay, well, this is going to be coming out 2 turns from now. So I'm going to play this other one now, and then do you want to waste a removal on it or the bigger thing that's coming, right? You can kind of force some different issues and some different gameplay with how much information you want to reveal, which would be kind of fun too.
Right, and that just that sort of keeps up that interaction. It keeps things interesting and lets you know kind of what's coming, but you can't really play around everything that's coming, but you know a little what's coming. I think that's brilliant and fantastic. And speaking of mechanics, one of the mechanics that is in the set is really interesting, called Harmonize. Harmonize is the tamer mechanic. It makes things cheaper and so on. And they put Harmonize only on sorceries, except
and creature.
There was one. There you go. Yeah, there's one exception that lets you do Harmonize at instant speed. And as we now know at this point, a blank, C-word mage, an C-word mage is going to be a thing in Magic. Whenever there's an S blank, C word blank mage, we know it's going to be rad. And Songcrafter Mage is here to be that radness. It's a red, blue, and green mana. And I do believe this is priced to move, even if it's a weird 3-2. It is a 3-2 rare human bard. Hey. It's got flash. And when this creature enters, target instant or sorcery in your graveyard gains harmonized until end of turn. Its harmonized cost is equal to its mana cost. You may cast that card from your graveyard for its harmonized cost. You may tap a creature you control to reduce that cost by X, where X is its power, then exile the spell. So this in and of itself will remove 3 generic mana out of whatever that you targeted. So it kind of discounts itself in that way. It does let you harmonize things you wouldn't sort of normally let be harmonized, as it were. There's a really bunch of awesome spells, particularly like the Mythic Jeskai spell in here that'd be really awesome to make cheaper with Songcrafter to pay an instant speed and so on. Like, this is the card that just seems like, I know it's hard to cast, but it looks like it's got a really great payoff.
Yeah, I agree. This was my number 6.
Nice.
This card's very exciting. A lot of the harmonized costs, if not all of the harmonized costs in the set, demand a significantly higher premium than their starting casting cost. And so to make the harmonized cost equal to its casting cost is interesting as well. Much less on spells that would not normally be able to get rebought. So, just as exciting as Snapcaster Mage was when it first came out, Songcrafter Mage is also that exciting. Turns 4 and going forward, you're able to flash back things like, your instant speed draw 2s, your cheap counter spells, get extra value out of whatever you have in your graveyard, and leave a relatively big body behind. I mean, a 3-2 is no joke. That's a clock in and of itself, particularly if you're playing a control deck full of instants and sorceries.
Yeah, what I found interesting about this card is that it doesn't actually let you do it to creatures when that's kind of a large focus of Jeskai or of a Teamer in this particular set, which was kind of neat. So it's a card that's sort of off kilter from what a lot of the other cards are. But man, this is one that you kind of have to start thinking of, what can I do with this in older formats? Like, is there anything cool that I would maybe not necessarily play as much because it's a little bit pricey that I could rebuy with this, right? Like, is there a world where it's worth having green so I could, like, I don't know, get an even cheaper, like, rebuy a Treasure Cruise or something for a couple of mana out of the yard, right? Like, I don't know. But it's like you have to start questioning things with a card like this of like, what do other decks start looking like? So yeah, this is one that I don't think we'll know what to do with it immediately. And it's like best case, but probably 6-7 months from now, we're going to see something really dumb done with this card.
Yeah, I would note, and I looked up to make sure this is correct. Stoke the Flames is in standard. And if you wanted to tap it to remove the 2 generic mana, then 2 other red creatures, and bam, at the end of their turn, you just harmonized out of nowhere. I like that a lot. So, and that's just, scratching the surface of what this thing can do. All right, let's move on here to number 4. Ruben, what's number 4?
All the rest of the cards on my list are bangers, absolute hits. I think my top 5, I was pretty sure were going to be my top 5. I've got a couple of weirdos in my top 5 and I put the rest in my top 10, which is why all those got picked early. But I think this has to be on somebody's list. This has to be somewhere. It's the number 1 card of the set. It's the return of the OG. It's Ugin, or the UG, I suppose. It's Ugin, Eye of the Storms. Ugin, Eye of the Storms is a 7 generic mana legendary planeswalker that comes in with 7 loyalty and has 2 triggered abilities. When you cast this spell, you exile up to 1 target permanent that's 1 or more colors. And when you cast a colorless spell, exile up to 1 target permanent that's 1 or more colors. Those are sentences that exist and are crazy. +2, gain 3 life and draw a card. I'll never sneeze at that. 0 mana, add 3 Wingdings to your mana pool. That'll probably help you with that second triggered ability. Your soul rings become utter ends for the rest of the game. And then -11, search your library for any number of colorless non-land cards, exile them, then shuffle. Until the end of the turn, you may cast those cards without paying their casting costs. Okay, that one's we've probably won the game if we untap with this card, much less if we ultimate this card. Very powerful, has impact on the stack even if it's countered. Just great.
Man, this was my number 7.
Good,
And
because it
I know
cost
people,
7. I almost put it there.
yeah, that was part of it too. It was just like some people are probably going like, "How is this not your number one?" It was like the only thing for me here, and now don't be wrong, in older formats when you can just like Tron into this mess, like good luck, like have fun, go nuts. But I was trying to think in terms of standard, like it could still be a little clunky to use, but man, when you hit it, it is going to be so damn scary if you don't get rid of it. Because now everything is a potential exile card. The only thing that I think slows it down is a lot of the artifacts we like to play in standard happen to have colors attached to them now, right? Which is something that didn't exist when we had previous Ugins and things. So but I still think the card's damn good. It could be a finisher type card, even for just like if you're playing a slower control deck and you just want to gain life, draw a card every
Yeah.
turn. Like even that's fine. And then you just eventually minus to just go get one or two big artifacts you have in the deck or whatever, right? It doesn't have to be an artifact heavy deck. It's a removal by itself, and it's just a value engine after the fact.
So this card was one that I did not choose because I was confident it would be on someone else's list. One of those, like it's an
Yeah.
incredible card. Like
Good read.
I sort of didn't need it, like because I thought there were 10 really interesting cards to talk about. This thing is clearly, really impactful, super powerful. Even when you cast it, you get to exile something. Any sort of mana left over, like just use 0:: and play something colorless, and then you trigger that ability again. So like you're almost automatically, depending on the hand, blah blah blah, automatically get rid of 2 colored permanents the instant you play this, which in modern is ridiculous. So yeah, this is a card that I hope they play tested a lot. It is pre-ordered for like $75, which will
Jeez.
not stand.
That's the part I had a problem with on this card too, is I'm like,
come on.
is like we look at Shieldred. Shieldred carries like a $50 price tag still or something crazy, right?
Mhm.
Like, and Shieldred goes into way more decks just automatically, right? So I'm like, something's got to happen with Ugin. That's a little too high, a little too high.
For sure.
Shieldred is pretty pricey these days. Around
Yeah.
75, well, $65 is the cheapest one I can find.
Sure.
Wild.
So yeah,
But
that's a whole thing.
it kind of just generically goes into a bunch of black decks or life gain decks or discard deck, whatever.
Right.
It fits a bunch of different builds.
Yeah, this card is this is the hot mythic, right? This is the sexy hot mythic that's going to change everything, and everything will be different now that Dugan's here and so on.
Right.
Well, maybe in certain formats, if you're playing those incredibly high powered formats to start with, we'll see. Is it going to get there in a standard type format? I don't know. Is it going to be super fun to Commander? It looks like it, but we'll see. All right, let's move on here to Power Dragons number 4. What you got?
My number 4, this is funny because before I saw this, I was thinking, well, getting some 1/1s and you attack and they die, like that's cool, but we need something to help set them off that I don't necessarily have to build a whole thing around. And then All Out Assault showed up on a preview, and I went,
Yeah.
Great. This is exactly what they need. So 2 red, white, black for an enchantment. Your creatures get +1/+1 and have Death Touch, which now all those 1/1s are 2/2s with Death Touch. But when it enters, you also get an additional combat phase and an additional main phase. I don't even know why, but you also get to untap everything and attack with it again, which is awesome. Like, you get set up with a couple of creatures that are making 3-4 tokens, and you're just like, all right, well, now I'm going to play this. Everything's going to be attacking with an extra +1/+1. If you block, well, their things die because they have Death Touch. And then we get to do it again with nothing in the way. And even if those attack steps don't win, it's just like all your stuff having Death Touch and +1/+1 is great.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it's an enchantment you get value out of with bonus value the turn you play it.
Yeah. It's an anthem that turns all your 1/1s into ankle shankers. It gives you the extra combat step. If you're really in the market for a comes into playability on an enchantment, you can also rebuy it with like a scroll shift or something along those lines, or return it to your hand with a pixie, something along those lines. So it has an incredible value on 2 different facets for relatively low cost of 5 mana.
Yeah, this is This is scary. This to me is when Wizards started making everything copy every other spell, and they made a whole mechanic about copying spells, and everything copies everything. Well, now everything gets another attack phase. You get to untap stuff in another attack phase, you get another main phase for some reason. Like, whatever, man. Between this and Fear of Missing Out and so on, it's just everybody gets free attack phases. And so I also get that this is the top of your curve. And your aggro deck, this ends the game ideally. You 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop, all out assault, bop bop, game's over, right? That's your nut draw, I would say. So in Commander, it's probably going to be fantastic. Sort of another
Oh yeah.
attack step for you waiting to be used. But in Constructed, could it get there? Maybe. We'll see how it
By
shakes
the
out.
way,
But I want to play this on turn 5.
that alternate art of this card is wild. I
Mm.
like
Yeah.
that looks nothing like I just saw that and went, what?
No. Huh?
That's crazy.
Yeah, and the special version is even, different, more different than the other ones. So, okay. Cool. But yeah, I like the card a lot. I like what it's doing. But I'm afraid that Wizards is getting a little too willy-nilly with extra attack steps. And
Yeah, I don't know why it has an extra main phase, but hey, thanks.
I guess
Yeah,
you can
like-
play a haste creature? I don't know. Whatever, man. It's cool. So for my number 4, this is a super cool card, probably on Ruben's missing hires. I don't know. It seems to appeal to things that he likes to do, is what I would say. But it is the creature, and it is the only dragon, at least certainly one of the only spirit dragons, that is on my list. And I like it. I like it a lot. And the reason I like it is because it has 3 magical words on it, which is draw a card. And whenever giant monsters draw cards, they get my attention. And so my number 4 is Betor Kin to All. This is the Obzon Spirit Dragon. It's a green, black, white, and 2 generic mana. So it's 5 mana. 5 mana. That's all it is. Price to move at 5/7 flyer. So a 5 mana, 5/7 flyer. I'm already on board. But let's do some cool stuff regarding toughness. At the beginning of your end step, that means as soon as you play this thing, if creatures you control have toughness 10 or greater, draw a card. You just need 3 toughness across any number of creatures. Plus this guy, you're drawing a card. Awesome. Then, if creatures you control have toughness 20 or greater, untap each creature you control. Okay, whatever. Then, if creatures you control have total toughness 40 or greater, each opponent loses half their life rounded up. They're probably dead at that point, honestly, if you got 40 toughness. But
Yeah.
again, fun casual formats can let this stuff happen. For me, this is a constructed, pushed 5 mana, 5/7 flyer that can start drawing you cards basically immediately. If it doesn't, I'm not sure what's happening. And it's still, at that point, just a scary monster you have to get rid of. Otherwise, they're going to keep drawing cards and keep dropping big, crazy bombs like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like this one as much as a couple of the other big spirit dragons, but you can't deny just getting a card every turn is going to be bad, right? Like my card's going to be good all the time, right?
Mhm.
Now, I'm with you. I think the 40 toughness is like, all right, sure, I guess.
Sure.
Like, I don't think we'll ever actually get it.
Right.
But the 10, you should be able to get that almost always, right? Like, it's going to be, assuming this card lives, it's going to be very difficult to not get 10 toughness. Like, it's got to draw at least a couple of cards during the course of the game. So, like, that alone at least gives it some type of value. The
Yeah.
20 is just kind of fun icing on the cake if it actually happens.
Good read. This was my number 8. This is exactly dead center my kind of card. I really love. I mean, it's a 5/7 flyer for 5. Let's stop there for a second. It's already blocking every other spirit dragon except for the 10/10 that comes down 3 turns later.
Right.
Like, this card is massive and a mid-range sized card. Like, this one can drive around a family of 4 and not have to worry too much about the overhead. It's usually drawing a card, very often with just elves that helped cast it, and it is likely to be able to untap all of your elves that helped tap it if you're playing like a Fanatic of Ronas, which is a 1/4 that taps for a green and would be best friends with Betor. So there's a lot of great ways to support Betor. There's also the Walls new commander in the Abzan Precon. There's a bunch of toughness matters like Tree Folk that were in Lord of the Rings. There's a lot of ways to play with Betor, Kin to All. Even if you're getting to that, if you're somehow trying to climb to 40 toughness and not attacking, you are still getting some value out of having all of that toughness on the board, which I also love.
it's got the wood paneling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It comes with the upgrade kit. It comes with the undercarriage. There
Right.
already there with the protectant. It's good to go. It's ready to roll.
Yeah, this one's safe for the whole family. It also, you all oftentimes end up with a bunch of O1 plants in that Insidious Roots deck, and those can probably help power out Baitor abilities. So, um,
I'm okay
yeah.
with that. I like that. All right, let's move in here to number 3. Mine is higher on somebody else's list. That's okay because it's dope. Ruben, what's number 3?
My number 3 is probably the most impactful. Man, this is a heck of a sentence. This might be the most impactful old format card in the set. Certainly in CEDH and Commander, but it's also likely to see play in Vintage, potentially depending on how combo centric a format is. It may see play in other formats, and that is Voice of Victory. Voice of Victory is a 1/3 for a generic and a white for a human bard with Mobilize 2. So when it attacks, we get 2/1/1 red warriors. That's not the sentence we really care about. The sentence we really care about is your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. I don't know if you've looked how much Grand Abolisher is recently, but there's a big market out there for your opponents not messing with you on your turn. This is easier to cast and has a higher toughness than Grand Abolisher. It doesn't shut off nearly as much as Grand Abolisher does, but in CEDH, we're playing both. And everybody loves a silence. I don't want people messing with me on my turn. So if I'm trying to win the game, I'm in the market for a Voice of Victory.
You know what I like about it? It doesn't get eaten by cut down.
Yep.
That's the best thing, because you play it and your opponent left a mana open, and it's like, oh well, I just wasted my turn too. Like, nope, not this time. Now they have to do it on their turn, and it opens up a little bit of wiggle room for you, right? Like, it's a 1/3, can do a little bit of blocking if you need to. It'll slow down mice every once in a while, which is solid. But 2 tokens is actually real deal. With like
Yeah.
3, 4 of the cards we've talked about today already. Like, you get a couple of these down and you get an attack in, that could be close to ending the game, in the right circumstances.
Yeah, this is a very, very powerful card. This to me is the 4 of in the sideboard to play against control decks.
Yep.
Like, when you're a control deck and you got 3 steps ahead or whatever, and they play this on turn 2, it sucks. It sucks to suck territory.
You're in hell.
Yeah, what are you going to do, man? At best, you're going to play like what do you call it when you draw 2 and discard 2 or whatever, a recycle or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever you call it. The point is, you're going to cycle through some cards, or you're going to maybe make a copy of something because the counter's out. There's no more counter stuff. And this is a 2-mana 3/3 for all intents and purposes for that mobilize. So not only do you have that working for you, they're scared to death to let you untap on your turn for all the cool hasty things you could be doing, like the guy I was talking about earlier. There's just a variety of reasons why this card is sort of problematic and definitely going to be included in all those things.
But think about everything it turns off, though, right? Things like Elspeth Smite that have to be used during the attack step, right?
Yeah.
It turns off. What is it? The super discounted one, whatever ride that like exiles your creature because that's to be tapped.
Ride's End.
Ride's End. Yeah, right.
Yeah, played on their turn. Yeah.
So many things that it just makes super inconvenient by this thing existing. And that's usually going to open the door for at least whatever you play the next turn to get through, right? Because they're going to have to waste their turn to get rid of this thing.
Very, very Death and Taxes coded card that's just like, you play this with some other stuff and your opponent stumbles so much that they can't do anything.
And any type of spell that protects it just makes this 10 times worse. Because at that point, I'm like, oh, okay, fine. During my turn, I'll cut it down. And you go, nope. And they go, oh my God, I can't stop it. This card is very, very sweet. Power Dragon, what's number 3?
My number 3, I think, might actually be the last dragon card on my list. But Dragonback Assault. And this isn't generally the type of card that I would say I like, but there's some stuff you could do with this. But it's 3 green, blue, red. It's an enchantment. When it enters, you deal 3 damage to each creature and each planeswalker. And then it has a really silly landfall ability of you get a 4/4 red dragon creature token with flying. Like, what? like I just get dragons? Like,
right.
Hold on a second. And there's a really interesting thing here because I was looking, okay, what's the easiest way to me to ramp into this that doesn't seem so detrimental? Because you don't want to use creatures, obviously, if this is going to end up just killing all your creatures. But there's a green dragon storm that lets you search for 2 lands.
Yep.
Not to mention a dragon that also lets you search for a couple of lands with the omen side as well. So you could very easily play the thing that lets you get 2 lands, and then the very next turn display Dragonback Assault. And then here's what's silly. You play a land, you get a dragon, you get to pick up the green dragon storm because you had a dragon enter the battlefield.
Yep.
And then the next turn you get to make 2 more dragons.
Yeah.
like what? Like that's
Yeah,
probably going to be a real deck.
The play pattern of 2-4-6 of play a ramp card on turn 2, play Encroaching Dragonstorm on turn 3. Turn 4, we play this, hopefully wipe the board, play a fetch land, or just a regular land, I guess.
Yeah.
But like, let's just play a regular land. Get a 4/4, return Encroaching Dragonstorm to our hand, and we're ready to get 2 more dragons after we untap next turn and ramp some more. I've never seen a card like this. The fact that this is an enchantment that has a Sulphurous Blast attached to it is very unique. We can blink this as well. This is a new paradigm for me of where we're blinking our enchantments for their come into play abilities. But here we are.
I have one more fun thing to add to this. Because you're ramping anyway already, you could play 1 or 2 Doppelgang in the deck.
Oh, sure.
Like, then you could just do this for 6, get your one of those things you copy as a land. You could stack the triggers to where the damage all goes off, and you end up with like 4 dragons.
I mean, bruh. Okay. I like to ride that train straight to Magic Christmas Land. I think the most important part, I think the thing that kind of sets this apart for being just sort of an enchantment that's cool, that makes dragons, versus a mythic enchantment that really makes it worth its salt, is that first part, that Sulphurous Blast with 3 damage to each creature and each planeswalker. That is ginormous. That is the part of the payoff, because when you play these 6 mana, quote unquote, do nothings, if they have a board presence, you just die. Even if you got your 2-4-6, whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? They play on the mouses and they're going crazy. Well, this gets to get rid of a bunch of them. Probably not all of them, but a bunch of them. And this lets you have something to do when you untap, makes them afraid of it, gets rid of their Lilianas, gets rid of all this weird little crap that's been messing with you. Let's wipe as much of the board as we can and have this awesome card left over. I think that's super powerful and really makes this card more than just like it makes dragons. Like, no, it clears the path. Then it starts making dragons.
For sure.
And that's awesome. All right, let's move on here to number 2. I'll take number 2 because I didn't get to have number 3. And my number 2, this is a card that, you know, I'm reading the set. I'm going through the set again. I like to read all the cards again. Try to pay attention. Try to look at. And I read this and I was like, wait. I was like, wait. This card is very cheap. And I was like, okay, let's go back here. Okay, a second. This card requires no mana to activate its ability. Okay, all right. This card has more than 2 toughness, so you can't just shock it to death or shock-like variants to death. And I was like, this card looks like an insane birthing pod. Why is Sidisi, Regent of the Mire, 2 mana? This card is a black and generic mana for a rare legendary zombie snake warlock, so it could be one of your awesome commanders, but I'm very excited about Constructed. For a black and generic mana, it's a 1/3. And it says tap, sack a creature you control with mana value X other than Sidisi, return target creature with mana value X +1 from your graveyard to the battlefield, activate only as a sorcery. Now, there is a lot of graveyard hate these days. There is a lot of splash damage that you'll get as a result of trying to use this thing. But when I see no mana required, just another creature, I get to bump up in mana value as I go along. I get value that I can do, you know, during my turn and do some silly stuff if I can untap it. Like, there's a variety of ways you can make this card do really dumb stuff, all packaged to move as a 2 mana 1/3. I like this card a lot.
Yeah, for sure. The fact that you can sacrifice a token and get a 1-drop back is super huge. There are Bloodghast is in standard. So we can sacrifice our Bloodghast and go get a 3-drop out of our graveyard, which is also not nothing. This is, you know, like you said, this is I think this is, I can't imagine a lower casting cost, higher toughness
Mhm.
scenario for this card.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I mean, this is probably about as closely statted for efficiency as this card is going to be allowed to be. You
Right.
know, like it's a 2 mana, only one colored mana. It's a 1/3, so it can block and hold up a little bit. And once you just start cooking, especially if you're doing the self mill thing, now you get to get all kinds of stuff out of your yard. And if all those have ETBs, there's a bunch of other value to be had. Like somebody's going to do something pretty crazy with this.
Yeah. This feels like it's breakable, and the bigger standard that we have now makes repurposing Bay and Sidisi style decks that want to have as many options in their toolbox as possible even better. So I would definitely foresee a Sidisi Regent of the Mire deck being a bugaboo in standard at some point.
Yeah, it's one of those cards where we've been around a long time. And when I see these effects as cheap as they are, doing as much
Yeah.
powerful stuff as they do, the years go up. All right.
Yeah.
Ruben, what's number 2?
Well, you want to talk about as cheap as they are for as much as they do. And you want to talk about numbers that you wouldn't necessarily imagine are on a card together. I also have a generic into black card as my number 2. Mine is a 5/5 with trample. It
Yeah.
also has Decayed, and it also has Renew that makes your opponent's stuff be decayed because it's called Rot Curse Rakshasa. So generic in a black for a 5/5 demon with trample and decayed, which means that it can't block, and when it attacks, you sacrifice it at the end of combat. And then it has renew of X black, black, and exile it from your graveyard. Put a decayed counter on each of X target creatures, activate only as a sorcery. So there's a number of reasons why Rot Curse Rakshasa is interesting. The first one, and I think a lot of people on the internet have been discussing this already, is Unholy Grotto and Ritual Chamber, which was a very popular standard deck for a while, but did require you to have a demon in play in order to not begin losing life. Now we have a 2-mana demon that is enormous, so probably not dying to traditional removal. At least it's harder than many of the other smaller demons. So you're getting the extra value out of your unholy annex, and you're able to eventually later in the game, once you unlock the ritual chamber and get your 6/6, you can get in there with the Rot Curse Rakshasa. Now, once it's in your graveyard, we can start putting delayed time bombs on our opponent's on our opponent's creatures, because now X target creatures can't block this turn, and if they try to attack, they'll die at the end of combat. So a very powerful ability from the graveyard, a very powerful power on the board, and good synergies in between.
Now, remember I was saying I didn't know what we were going to do with the battle chicken?
Yeah.
I like the idea of making
okay.
a 5/5 that tramples every
Hell
turn
yeah.
to go along with my battle chicken.
Battle chicken good with Rot Curse Rakshasa. I like that a lot.
Because it's going to die at the end of the turn anyway. So,
For sure.
Yeah, like that could be fun.
Okay, that's cooking. I like that one.
I mean,
Yeah,
also-
there's a few silly things you could do with this card for sure. And like you're saying, just even if you just find a way to just get this into the graveyard, that renew ability to basically say, all right, now we can just punch through an attack.
Yeah.
And there's just nothing you could do, right? Like, even if you're just like your 2 best creatures can't block now, like, here we come. Like, so good.
Oh, yeah. And note the card type. This is a demon.
Yeah.
Demons are awesome. Demons turn on that super cool Phyrexian Arena thing that makes them lose 2, and you get to gain 2 and draw a card and all that stuff on curve. Right there with this guy.
That was the big issue with Unholy Annex,
Yeah.
was that it was, you had nothing on curve.
Right. You didn't have a good 2-drop demon. There's some good 2-drop demons in sort of Explorer and whatnot and Pioneer, but not so much anymore because it rotated out with Kamigawa. Instead, we got this guy priced to move. This was my number 8. I think this card is fan-freaking-tastic for a variety of reasons. Mardu Siegebreaker in this is just a match made in heaven.
Yeah,
I think
that's
it's
great.
Absolutely brilliant. And easily just like one of the first things I want to do is throw 4 of each of those into a standard deck and play that on the preview stream. Sounds super duper fun. Yeah, this card, I think, just when you see something with that low of a mana cost, with that high of a power and toughness, with a bunch of really cool abilities around it, like there's a reason it's mythic. Demons have been awesome for a hot minute, and this train is not slowing down if it's this good on this card.
Yeah. I could definitely see this. I mean, the Battle Chicken costs 4 and this costs 2.
Right.
Unholy Annex costs 3 and Ritual Chamber costs 5. That's a deck.
That's a
Like
deck.
we're already there.
2, 3, 4, 5 right
Yep.
there. Ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba. Archfiend of the Dross if you need to in the middle of it.
Hell yeah.
Whatever,
Great.
man. Do what you gotta do.
I'm in.
Let's do it. All right. Power Dragon, what's number 2?
My number 2, we're going to start with the history lesson real quick. So, people that don't remember, back when Strixhaven was still standard legal, and I don't know, was that right? The end of that was like beginning of the pandemic, I think. But there was a card we played with called Magma Opus.
Yeah.
And it was 8 mana, and people thought, there's no way. Like, this card's neat, but whatever. And that card ended up being ridiculous. Super annoying. Lots of value. Well, we got a card that's probably better than that. And it only costs 7. Now, we did add a white mana to it, but Jeskai Revelation. It's 4 blue, red, white as an instant for an insane amount of value. You get to return target spell or permanent to its owner's hand. So it's a pseudo counter or a bounce spell. And then you get 4 damage dealt to any player. Create 2 1/1 monk creature tokens with prowess for some reason. And you draw 2 cards and you gain 4 life. Like, this is exactly the type of card that the Just Guy control decks want. And when you're talking about maybe being able to play it out of the graveyard, we still have that, what's a silly artifact that, you know, you add a counter every turn, reduce the cost of instants and sorceries or whatever. That's still standard legal. Like, there's a billion things you could do with this to make it cost effective. And you're getting like 5 things. Like, every time I read this card, I'm just like, why does it have all this text on it? Like, why does it do all these things?
Right.
Like, it's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. So yeah, I'm gonna hate this card because like this is the type of card that on some attack steps is just an instant blowout and you're not gonna recover from it. Right? Like, kill a creature, maybe double block something. I got a couple cards, some life, and now you're just not gonna be able to keep up. Like, this card is silly.
Yeah, the Mind Splice Apparatus.
Yeah, that's the card I was thinking
from, Phyrexia, All Will Be One. That card is fantastic. It's another card that slides right in there. Like, this is one of those that just imagine if it's 6 mana. Because that's immediately what it's going to cost after the apparatus is up and running. And you're like, this card's incredible for 6 mana. And you go, okay, what if you played 5 mana? What if this is a four color control deck with Songcrafter mages to keep rebind this stupid thing as much as you can in the middle of it? Like, there are ways to make this thing go absolutely bananas. And yeah, for those who didn't get to play in the Magma Opus days, big crazy sorceries or instants that do big crazy things, particularly this is an instant, are amazing and are really fantastically.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the market for Songcrafter Mage Jeskai Revelation. I
that
think
too. Like,
that makes me happy.
Just saying.
I'm on board for that.
The thing about this card with it being instant that just is so concerning is that your biggest thing gets bounced. Your next biggest thing probably dies to 4 damage. And then the others aren't getting through because there's 2 new blockers in the way.
Right.
And in the meantime, they got some life and some cards on top of it. It's just like, okay, I guess. I mean, you're getting your money's worth for 7 mana.
Yeah, this is the card that, this is the type of card I can see sort of becoming loop-ish, where you're looping things that return it back to your hand and whatever, because you just can't, the revelations keep coming and the Mind Splices making it cheaper or whatever. Like, and there's no way you can outrun it because Mother of God says everything. It's wild and I love it. And I think this card is great. Let's move on here to number 1. Power Dragon, what's number 1?
I have a feeling this is going to be number 1 on somebody else's list too. But this card, I don't know, I guess technically Ugin is the most expensive card in the set. But this is the other Planeswalker in the set. We're talking about Elspeth Stormslayer.
Number 3.
I just can't see a world where this card is ever going to be less than $30 to start with. Because, well, let's just read the card, right? So Elspeth, 3 white. So 5 for a dumb amount of text on this card, but it's 5 loyalty Planeswalker. If 1 or more tokens would be created under your control, twice that many are created instead. And you can +1 to make a 1/1 soldier creature token, which would obviously be 2. You, for 0, mind you, you can just put a +1/+1 on everything, and they have flying until the end of your next turn, not even till end of turn for whatever reason. And then -3 lets you destroy a creature an opponent controls with mana value 3 or greater. So just eat dragons all day, I guess. But I like this card. I was trying to argue with people. It's so good that if we took any one line of text off of it, we're probably still playing the card.
Right.
Right? Like there's so many decks where honestly just drawing this, putting a +1 on all your creatures and attacking with flying is probably going to be like 12 damage. And that's just the game. Like I don't this card, I'm seriously like I read it so many times went, why? Why though? Like I don't understand. Like this card, I'm not gonna lie. As soon as I found one in the $30 range, I picked one up because I'm like, they're not gonna be cheaper than this.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, it's a doubling season / parallel lives / you know, what's the other?
Mondrak.
I mean, Mondrak, that's the guy.
Yeah.
You know, you're never going to get this effect for cheap. And it's attached to a planeswalker, which is even better. And it creates its own army. It's not just a support structure, it is also the factory where you can make more of these tokens. By the way, let's do Battle Chicken again, everybody. This is the Battle Chicken episode. We get 2 of whatever we're attacking with.
That's true. That's also true.
On turn 5, on curve.
This card is great. Obviously, this card's spectacular. This was my number 7.
Nice.
Evan, your number 3.
Yep.
It was on all of our lists. No one is surprised that this one is on all of our lists.
Very nice. Yeah, this card is just, I mean, much like they're giving you lots of attack steps these days, I'm afraid they're dipping too far into the, if you get one thing, get 2 of it instead. Double this, double that. You know what I mean? Like, the doubling season thing is cool and exciting because we don't have infinite of it. So this is like, for me, this is like kind of a canary in the mine of we really don't need any more token doublers. Like, seriously, like it's on a planeswalker now. You put it on one of the hardest permanents to get rid of in some ways. It's a very powerful effect that's great. Don't get me wrong, I love it. Powerful, nice cards that are worth good money as well. That's great. But as an ability, we might want to just pull it back just a little bit, and I'm okay with that because this thing is super dope.
This is how dumb the card is. I have a +1/+1 counter commander deck. I'm gonna play it just for that. Like I don't even care about the other words on the card. It's just like for 0, just like +1 on everything every turn, and they get flying. Like yes, please. Like why not?
The creatures gain flying until your next turn.
Yes,
it's just unnecessary. You know what I mean? Like
Elspeth apparently is out here trying to kill every dragon.
Yeah,
like
she's just slaughtering all of them.
Even when I read it the first time, my brain just assumed it was flying until end of turn.
Right.
And then like a day later, I'm reading it going like, oh, wait, I just get flying just because forever? Great. Sounds awesome. I have it till the next turn? Fantastic.
Just forever and ever. Amen. I swear. Goodness gracious. All right. Ruben, what is your number 1?
All right. I've seen some of the feedback from our show that when you watch back several months down the line, our top 10 list, they don't make any sense. They're like, why are we talking about XYZ card? And why are we not talking about what has succeeded in standard? Well, the answer to that is because usually we're choosing cards that make us happy. We're choosing cards that are exciting to us and that trigger dopamine and serotonin within our systems. However, I am willing to go out on a limb at my number 1. My number 1 is a common from this set, and it is Molten Exhale.
Yeah.
I will go out on a limb once I read you what the card does. Molten Exhale is a generic and a red for a sorcery that says when you may cast this spell as though it had flash if you behold a dragon as an additional cost to cast it. Molten Exhale deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker. 4 damage at instant speed at common is pretty darn good. There are only 6 cards in the set that have Behold as a keyword. Sarkhan, Dragon Ascendant, which we talked about earlier, and a cycle of 5 Exhales. All of them are great. Every single Exhale is great. So here's the limb I will go out on. I believe that 10 Exhales will make the top 8 of the next Pro Tour.
Whoa.
I don't know which ones.
I like it. It's bold.
I don't know which ones.
Yeah.
I don't know which ones are going to make it. I think Molten Exhale is probably the best one. Yeah. The blue one counters spells for 2 or 4 if you behold it. Caustic Exhale is a 1 mana -3/-3 if you behold a dragon. Otherwise, it's a 2 mana. The white one, probably the weakest one, but it deals 5 to an attacker or blocker. And then Piercing Exhale is a bite, not even a fight. It's a bite that also lets you surveil 2 if you behold it. I think that all of these are great. I think that all of these are going to be players in standard. I think all of these might be players in Pauper if there is a playable dragon. The reason to play dragons in your standard deck, I think, is these exhales because they're so good early. They're so efficient if you happen to be playing with a dragon on your side. And so Molten Exhale is my number one. I stand by it.
You know, it's funny to me now that we kind of turn the corner to our final number one here. We do not have any cards with omens on them. The
Sure.
new adventure type, which
I
shovels
considered
back into their deck.
I considered the white dragon that had the red omen that deals 5 to a non-flyer.
Mm-hmm.
The
But it
black
did
one
not.
also almost made my list too. The black dragon.
Yeah, I like the
Yeah.
black one as well, the black rare one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just interesting to me that, you know, of all the mechanics, that one didn't show up really at all. So,
Yeah.
Interesting. That said, my number one, which I think by process of elimination is Ruben's number 9.
Yep.
This card is dope. And this card, traditionally, cards of its ilk, if you will, have always been very powerful and very expensive.
Yes.
Which is nice, you know, to keep a set's value nice and high. And so when you're able to search your library for stuff, great. When you're able to do it again, that much better. Because I remember, was it the Devastation card from
Yep.
War? What was it called again?
Finale of Devastation.
Finale of Devastation.
Yeah.
That's right. Finale of Devastation's new brother here, Nature's Rhythm. 2 green and X for a rare sorcery that says search your library for a creature card with mana value X or less, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. Oh, but it also has Harmonize for 4 green and X generic mana. You may cast this card from your graveyard for its Harmonized cost. You may tap a creature, only one, you control to reduce that cost by an amount of generic mana equal to its power, then exile this spell. So it kind of builds upon itself of what you're going to go find. Finale of Devastation did this thing with counters if it's X is 10 or more or whatever. Who cares? This one says you get Finale of Devastation's ability and you kind of get to do it again using ideally less mana thanks to the thing you found to start with or what else you have on board. And this card is just value on value. And mono green ramp will love stuff like this. And this card is incredible and sealed.
Yeah, for sure. This card's great. This was my number 9. There is a really entertaining, almost mono green, splashing a little bit of black for Lathril Golgari Elves deck that I might be tempted to play in the streamer event. I usually don't play in the early access or play standard in the early access events. I like to draft just to get used to all of the cards. But I love a Llanowar Elf deck. I love a 30 creatures and a couple of support pieces deck. And this is that card for me. You also get access to the toolbox element. Chord of Calling oftentimes is a toolbox card as opposed to a finisher card. And so having a one of in your deck that you're able to go grab for a very specific circumstance also is helpful in this circumstance. The card's great. Card's going to be incredible in Commander. Card's going to be a player in multiple constructed formats. The fact that it has a harmonized cost that gives you another bite at the apple later in the game, even better, but you're possibly winning the game the first time you cast it.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing here is I look at it and I think some people go, oh, well, what green deck wants to play this, whatever. It's like, well, yeah, it's not every green deck is going to play it, but the ones that want it are going to really want it. You're saying like elves, being able to go get Lathril, Craterhoof, whatever, like awesome. They're going to have the mana to do it. Like those decks definitely want something like this. And in Commander, like all the toolboxy random things you're already playing one-ofs of a bunch of stuff, so let's just make sure you can go get it.
Yeah, this basically just says when you're looking for that top deck and you have infinite mana, here you go. Go absolutely ape. And that's awesome. All right, let's move on, y'all. That was our top 10 Tarkir Dragonstorm cards. You'll see them on the screen right now for your review. Take a look at my list, Power Dragon's list, Ruben's top 10, and we want to hear from you about what card we didn't talk about and select our favorite to highlight during our next top 10. But before we go, I want to thank my co-hosts. Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you. This was fun, and I love Dragonstorm.
Thank you, Power Dragon.
Yeah, I'm gonna be knee deep in this stuff probably all the way until the set goes live on Arena next week. So
Yeah.
still got a lot ahead to talk about on the set. You can dive into this for days. There's so much to do with it.
Very, very excited. As we move here to our final slide, I want to thank our co-sponsor, ManaTraders.com, my co-host, Power Dragon, and Ruben Bressler. You guys for watching or listening, and hope you support us at Patreon.com/MagicMikes. Follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social tells people we exist. Catch us online at Twitch.tv at Magic Mikes, on Twitter and Blue Sky at Magic Mikes Cast, our Magic Mikes subreddit, like the Magic Mikes page on Facebook, or join us here next time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mikes. Good night, everybody.